In this video, we shall examine the changes in the political structure of the Huns during the late 4th century, the reasons for the Gothic invasion led by King Radagaisus and the significant invasion of various tribes associated with crossing the Rhine in the early 5th century. We also examine the long migration of the Goths under the leadership of King Alaric, which led to the formation of the Visigothic ethnic group and the establishment of the First Kingdom within the territory of the Roman Empire. In 395, the Huns launched their first large-scale attack on the territory of the Roman Empire. They devastated the Roman provinces of Cappadocia, Syria, and many cities in Anatolia. Due to the power struggle between Emperor Theodosius I and Roman general Arbogast, most Roman troops were moved westward, giving the Huns an advantage in their raids. It was not until 398 that Eutropius, a close advisor to Eastern Roman Emperor Arcadius, raised an army and drove the Huns out of imperial territory. The Huns did not intend to conquer or settle the territories they attacked. Instead, their goal was to plunder the Roman provinces, from which they seized, among other things, cattle. Thus, by the end of the 4th century, most Huns remained in the Pontic steppe, east of the Carpathian Mountains, but could already concentrate their military forces into an army. According to the Treaty of 382, the Goths living in the Roman Empire were obliged to provide their military units under the leadership of Gothic generals at the empire's request. In 393, Emperor Theodosius I gathered an army to fight Eugenius, the ruler of the West, a significant part of which consisted of Goths. In 394, at the Battle of Frigidus, Theodosius's army decisively defeated Eugenius's forces. The Goths, led by Alaric, played an essential role during the battles and suffered heavy human losses. A contemporary Roman historian claimed that Theodosius won 2 battles since the Goths suffered the most casualties, one against Eugenius and one against the Goths. The autonomy of the Gothic tribes of Gruthungi and Thervingi was based on the impossibility of the Roman Empire defeating them. There was a danger that the high casualty rate among the Gothic warriors might tip the balance of power in favor of the empire, allowing it to change the terms of the Treaty of 382. Furthermore, the Treaty of 382 allowed the Gruthungi and Thervingi considerable de facto autonomy under the leadership of their tribal chiefs. However, this treaty did not recognize a single leader of the Goths and thus did not acknowledge the possibility of uniting the Gothic tribes as a single people. Many Goths, including the Thervingi and Gruthungi, sought rapprochement with one another and gradually migrated to the Roman province of Moesia. This unification of the Goths within the territory of the Roman Empire marked the beginning of the creation of a new ethnic group, which the Roman writer Cassiodorus, who lived in the 5th and 6th centuries, referred to as the Visigoths, to distinguish them from the Ostrogoths, who were the Goths subjected to the Huns. Initially, the Visigoths were dominated by the Thervingi tribe, but over time, this dominance faded, and a new ethnic group identified itself as Goths. The Goths chose Alaric from the Balt dynasty as their king. In 395, following the death of Emperor Theodosius I and the official division of the Roman Empire into western and eastern halves, the Goths, led by King Alaric, revolted. The rebellious Goths and their families made their way towards Constantinople without facing significant resistance from the Roman army stationed in the west then. During this period, the Eastern Empire, under the de facto rule of Flavius Rufinus, the Praetorian prefect of the East, clashed with the Western Empire, where the military leader Stilicho served as the emperor's regent, over control of the praetorian prefecture of Illyricum. During the demonstrative siege of Constantinople, Rufinus negotiated with Alaric, persuading him to relocate to Greece, which was part of the prefecture of Illyricum, for protection from Stilicho. In response, Stilicho led the Western Roman Empire's army into the Balkans to confront the Goths. The Eastern Emperor, Arcadius, prohibited Stilicho from assaulting Alaric and demanded that Stilicho's army vacate the territory of the Eastern Empire, since the emperor had not requested the intervention of the Western Roman commander. Stilicho, whose wife and son were then in Constantinople, was compelled to withdraw his troops. In 396, Gothic forces ravaged numerous cities in Achaia. The Goths subsequently relocated to the province of Epirus. In 398, the Eastern Empire was compelled to conclude a peace treaty with the Goths, allowing them to settle in the prefecture of Illyricum. Alaric received the highest title in the prefecture and was recognized as the king of the Goths. With the prefecture under his control, Alaric could impose his will on the cities and demand food and weapons from their arsenals for his troops. In 399, the High General Gainas staged a coup d'état in the Eastern Roman Empire, becoming the de facto ruler. Gainas was the Goths' leader, who regarded Alaric as a rival for power among them. Taking advantage of his authority, Gainas ordered the Eastern Empire to reject Alaric's services and cede the prefecture of Illyricum to the west. This administrative change resulted in Alaric losing his high military rank and the right to provision his army. Consequently, Alaric led his Goths into Italy in the autumn of 401, initiating the Gothic War, which lasted from 402 to 403. For 6 to 9 months, the Goths pillaged Roman settlements in northern Italy. In 402, 2 battles took place between the Roman army of the Western Empire, led by Stilicho, and the Goths' army, with the Romans emerging victorious, according to Roman historians. After these victories, Stilicho proposed a peace agreement to Alaric, allowing him to return to the prefecture of Illyricum. Alaric's Goths were likely accepted into the service of the Western Empire to safeguard Illyricum, which was under Western control at that time, and the Roman victories over the Goths were not absolute, as Roman historians claimed. In 405, the territory of the Western Empire was invaded by a united army of Goths, Vandals, and Alans, led by the Gothic King Radagaisus. This invasion marked the beginning of the War of Radagaisus. Before the invasion, these Goths were situated in the region of the Great Hungarian Plain, also known as Alfold. The reason for Radagaisus's invasion was likely the increased pressure from the Huns, who were already able to concentrate substantial armies at that time. The army of Radagaisus crossed the Alps via the Brenner Pass and invaded northern Italy, which it ravaged for over 6 months before Stilicho could confront the invaders. Stilicho bribed a military corps commanded by the Gothic leader Sorus from the Amal dynasty, who deserted Radagaisus's army to join the Roman forces. Additionally, a group of Huns, led by Uldin, joined Stilicho's army for a fee. In August 406, at the Battle of Fiesole, the Roman army and its allies achieved a decisive victory over Radagaisus's forces. The Goths under Alaric remained inactive throughout the War of Radagaisus. In the winter of 405 or 406, large groups of migrants, including the Vandals, Suevi, Alans, and Burgundians, crossed the Rhine and invaded Gaul. The Vandal tribal confederation included the Hasdingi and Silingi tribes, whereas the Suebi confederation likely comprised the Quadi, Macumeni, and Olimoni. The reason for the invasion was likely the same as that for Radagaisus's invasion, namely the increased pressure from the Huns in the Pontic steppes, who wanted to be closer to the wealthy Roman Empire. According to the 6th century Gallo-Roman historian Gregory of Tours, before crossing the Rhine, a war occurred between the Vandals and Alans on the migrant side, and the Franks, who, as Roman foederati, defended the imperial frontier. The united forces of the Vandals and Alans emerged victorious in the war, but the Vandals sustained greater losses of warriors. In Gaul, some Alans, led by their leader Gor, defected to the Western Roman Empire and settled in the area of Aurelianorum, now known as Orleans. Another part of the Alans, led by the leader Ispendiel, continued the invasion of Gaul with the Germanic tribes. After crossing the Rhine, Burgundians settled as foederati in the Roman province of Germania Prima, in the area of Borbtomagus, now known as Worms. In autumn 409, all the migrant invaders moved to the territory of present-day Spain and Portugal. Little is known about the activities of the Vandals, Rispendiel's Alans, and Suevi in Gaul between their crossing of the Rhine and the invasion of Spain. In Spain, the Alans, led by Rispendiel, settled in the provinces of Lusitania and Carthage, the Silingi Vandals settled in Baetica, the Suebi in coastal Galatia, and the Hasdingi Vandals in the rest of Galatia. In 407, taking advantage of the crisis in the Western Empire, Alaric again moved into Italy, taking up a position in the province of Illyricum, where he demanded the sum of 4,000 pounds of gold, approximately 1,800 kilograms, which Stilicho agreed to pay Alaric. This weakened the position of Stilicho, who was killed in a coup d'état led by the minister Olympius. Alaric did not receive the agreed payment and was again declared an enemy of the emperor, depriving him of the legitimacy necessary to collect taxes. Olympius ordered the extermination of the federates as supporters of Stilicho, and their troops went over en masse to Alaric. As a result, Italy was left without an effective local defense force. In 408, Alaric's army imposed a strict blockade on Rome, and the starving Romans paid a substantial ransom to remove the blockade. Alaric negotiated with Honorius, the emperor of the Western Empire, to secure an annual tribute of gold, food, and land in the provinces of Dalmatia, Noricum, and Venetia et Istria. However, Soras's attack on Alaric's Goths interrupted the negotiations. On August 24, 410, Alaric and his troops began the plunder of Rome, the primary goal of which was food supplies. However, by the standards of the time, the looting was restrained. There was no mass massacre or mass enslavement of the city's inhabitants, and the two main basilicas of Peter and Paul were designated as places of sanctuary. Most of the buildings and monuments in Rome remained intact, although stripped of their treasures. Alaric then led the Goths south to sail to Sicily, but a storm wrecked his ships, and the passage to Sicily did not occur. In 411, during his return journey north through Italy, Alaric fell ill and died. In 412, Alaric's successor, Athalf, led the Goths into the province of Gallia Aquitania, which had been granted to them by Emperor Honorius. Subsequently, in the second half of the 5th century, the Goths established the first kingdom on the territory of the Roman Empire, which annexed most of the Iberian Peninsula and later became known as the Visigothic kingdom. Over the course of 17 years, the Goths migrated from the lower Danube region, where they had formed the new ethnic group Visigoth, to the province of Gallia Aquitania. During their migration, the group was supplemented by foreign ethnic elements, enriching the Visigoth ethnic group, which later became one of the many progenitors of the Spaniards. Continuing our video journey on the migration period, the following video explores the Huns' migration to the borders of the Roman Empire and the state of Attila.